I don't know. I'm trying. Wow. Okay, Mike is in. Mike is in. I don't hear him, but I see his name. Somebody got in. Hey,
Hey, can you hear me?
extremely loudly. Yes.
Okay, I think the link was bad to get on. I went down to September 13.
No, it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. I couldn't sign in. It kept making me change my password. It wasn't recognizing my Google account because the passwords were different after I changed it. So I had to shut everything down and reload everything. Can you hear me?
So what I'm saying is, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're loud and clear, man.
Okay, so I think the link you just sent to us to get here did not work. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for anybody else.
No, it didn't work before, and the reason is because I was signed in already on the wrong thing, and it wouldn't let you in because I wasn't there. I was somewhere else. Okay, you're telling me it's your fault, and I'm telling you it's mine.
Okay, well, I mean, I did something different to get into this one.
I know you did. I'm sure you did, but Gene can't get in, and nobody else is here. That's a sign it ain't you.
Okay. Okay, well, I just went down to September 13
Okay, can you?
that link and I got in.
Okay, well, hang on.
Okay.
It is not letting me go to Facebook. I may already be there. I hope so. It looks like we're already on there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, here's the deal. I know it's just the two of us right now, but we need to get started, and there's a video we need to watch. We can wait and kind of set up the video for everybody who's watching. I'm sorry for being now at this point 15 minutes late. So he says maybe not tonight, and I'm telling him we're on, and I am going to try to send him the accurate link because you're telling me that one could be wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm sending him the accurate link right now. I'm putting it on the Facebook chat. Hang on.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it on this thing too. Okay, it's there, and I'm going to leave a comment as well. Link to Zoom. Nobody else shows up. I still want to show this to you.
Okay.
Okay, I just left a message. I'm also going to go to Owl Rock group message and put that there. All right, so I put it everywhere I know to put it. Except on the Owl Rock page, which I'm doing now. Correct link. Correct Zoom link.
Yeah, I know that came through. I just saw it.
Okay, I'm putting a post on the Owl Rock page. Okay. Oh, Gino found me. Okay, good. All right.
You can run, but you can't hide.
I was trying to hide the bestest I could. All right, guys, you ready for the video?
Yeah.
All right. I'm not going to give any introduction. I'm just going to play it. And then we'll go from there and see if it has any implication to anything of interest to you. This is from a TED Talk.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's edited sections of a TED Talk, and I hope that I don't get some sort of strike against me for doing this in terms of copyright.
Bird, I see Scuba Lady Ocean on here. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, that's Kathy.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna move y'all up here and I'm gonna play the video. All
Okay.
right, you ready? Hey, I see Becky.
Yeah. Hey, Becky.
Here comes the greatest video you've ever seen. Okay, here we go. Boy, that was an overstatement for sure. Here we go. I'm playing. In here.
From 1969 through 2001, the US government murdered over 12 billion birds in the American skies. They did this using poisonous toxins dropped from airplanes that was contagious and murdered all of the birds over the course of about 40 years. For each bird the government killed, they replaced it with a surveillance drone replica in disguise designed to spy on the American people. The proof that birds are robots is all around us if you start looking. For starters, birds charge their batteries on power lines. They also track civilians using a liquid tracking device. You ever wonder why birds poop on your car? Do you need more evidence? I can go all day up here. Who here has seen a baby pigeon? You haven't, have you? It's weird. There's all these adult pigeons. Where are all the babies? They come out of the factory as adults. Over the years, as I began putting this information together, I began realizing the extent of all this. And there were times I wished I never even learned this. My life would be so much easier. You know, I remember before I knew this information, I was happier, my steps were lighter, you know. But I always come back to this. It is my moral obligation, as one of the few privileged enough to know this, to share it with you, the blind sheep, you know. And that's what I've been doing for years now. I'm a part of a movement called Birds Aren't Real. And in 2021, I was promoted to Public Information Officer for the movement. My one job was to deprogram the public from the bird lie. And deprogram is a very specific word, because you all are programmed, you know that, right? We live in a pro-bird civilization drenched in propaganda. For instance, every state has a state bird. The national mascot is a bald eagle. Presidents don't talk, they tweet. Then the tweets are covered on the bird logo media. Once I knew this, my first order of business was to get the information out to the American people. Get off the internet into the real world. So that's what I did. I bought a van, covered it in decals with facts. I wanted to turn the highway into an information highway, awaken the people. I went city to city, holding rallies, meeting up with our thousands of supporters growing by the day, and I was putting up billboards wherever we went, sharing our simple but powerful message. Look at how beautiful it is. The government did take note of what we were doing, and they sent some intimidators to try and deter us from our mission. You can see them right there, but we did not fold. We kept on going. We started holding rallies at some of the most evil pro-bird corporations in the world, starting with Twitter, where we brought hundreds out to protest their pro-bird logo. Months later, we brought 500 people out to CNN headquarters to demand fairer coverage for bird truthers on air. Then, just last year, we brought 2,000 people out to Washington Square in New York City to demand that the mayor shut down every pigeon in the city. Can't even tell you how that felt. I took that video, standing on the top of the van, megaphone in hand, knowing we were awakening a country that needs it so badly. Can't think of anything more beautiful. Okay, let me start this talk over. I do not actually believe that birds are robots. And everyone else in this picture is also in on the bit. This is a character that I played for 4 years, the leader of a fake movement with fake evidence and a fake history. Our goal was to convince the public that our satirical movement was a real one, and to see if the media would believe what we were saying. To do this, I played this character that I just showed you. We held rallies, put up billboards. We even sent the media a lot of fake evidence. We hired an old actor to pose as an ex-CIA agent confessing to his crimes. We sent them a historic email leak called Poultrygate that came out of the Pentagon. where we forged hundreds of fake emails exposing elites and government officials in the Bird drone surveillance plot. It didn't take much to convince the media. After just one summer holding rallies, it became nationally syndicated news on tons of local news stations that we were a real movement that had been around for 50 years. And there was a resurgence happening where it was coming back, and there was a radical new leader, myself, bringing the movement back as the rise of conspiracy theories swept the nation. At this point, I'm sitting on my couch, watching the media report on my fake movement as a real one, and figured it was probably time to come out of character. One, because we'd accomplished what we came there to do, but also, I didn't want this to snowball into anything it was never supposed to. So, in 2021, I broke character, revealed the movement was a farce on the front page of the New York Times. And I was very proud, as you can see. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Hi, I'm Peter. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Arkansas. The community that I grew up with was hyper-religious, and almost everyone that I knew believed in some form of conspiracy theory, whether it was that Obama was the Antichrist, or that there are microchips in the vaccines. During my entire life, I always felt like I was on the fringes of normal society. So, as you can imagine, when it became time for me to play a character, during the years in character, I used the same cadence, logic, and arguments as those I grew up around, just with a different theory swapped in. I was really dedicated to playing this character as convincingly as I could, as method as possible. So I spent days, sometimes, in character. A lot of time out in public with the van there, just talking with strangers. It led to hundreds of interactions with strangers who thought that I was a real conspiracy theorist. I'd often be out there, cowboy hat on, handing out flyers that said things like if it flies, it spies. We had another flyer that said, bird watching goes both ways. And during these times, as I'm handing out flyers and talking with people, there were hundreds, maybe thousands of instances over the years where strangers would approach me. You know, they'd see me in public, and I'd see them notice me. They'd walk up to me with complete disdain on their face. They thought that I was a real conspiracy theorist. And time again, they'd come up to me, look me right in the eyes, and they would tell me how stupid I am. They'd tell me I was uneducated, that I was crazy, that I was the problem with this country. When this happened, I didn't feel the emotions of the character that I thought I would. My out-of-character self may interpret these interactions as a funny response to someone that fell for the comedy project, but instead I felt the emotions of the character. I felt emboldened, and I felt sad and angry, like they didn't even take the time to know me. They instantly condemned me, judged me, and othered me. I'd found myself on the opposite side of this equation that I'd grown up around, the normal and the fringe. And in those moments when those people were talking to me, they could not have been more ineffective at what I would assume they really want: less conspiracy theorists in the world. These experiences, hundreds of them over the years, watching how people interact with those on the fringes of our society, gave me an entirely new perspective on our approach to conspiracy theorists, whether it's how we frame them in the conventional media, to how we deal with those in our own lives. If our goal is to live in a shared reality with our neighbors, what if our current approach isn't bringing us any closer to that? What if by talking to conspiracy theorists like they're ignorant and stupid, we're actually pushing them farther away from the truth that we want them to see? Because what happens when someone tells you that you're stupid, you're all wrong, you're the problem? You'll feel judged and dismissed, and most importantly, you'll feel othered, which may lead you to look for safety in those who are like-minded, to do what they have been doing for you. Affirm your selfhood, give you a sense of identity, belonging. These are some of the most basic human desires. We have to consider that conspiracy theorists are not just joining these groups for no reason. They're getting rewards out of these, things that we are all looking for: a sense of purpose, community. I grew up with the internet, and during my time with this project, especially out of character, people have talked to me about the misinformation age and this, terrifying problem of online echo chambers and conspiracy theorists. But I want to remind us that there are humans behind a lot of these screens. It's not just numbers. Everyone's unique experience influences their own narrative about the world, and there's no blueprint for how to deal with this yet. But I do not think that online echo chambers of conspiracy theorists are this inevitable symptom of life online. The internet is about 30 years old and things are changing quickly, and I think it'll be very important that we develop new solutions for these new problems. What if, by addressing belief before belonging, we're starting the conversation at the wrong place? Instead of sitting in collective bewilderment and frustration about how these people could believe these things, these crazies, what if we first looked under the hood and thought about what made them vulnerable to this information in the first place? What might they be getting out of this they're not getting in their everyday lives? How much does it have to do with a different truth? Or how much does it have to do with the community that truth brings? We need to think about people's circumstances and reference points, to see them as fellow human beings who want to believe in something and want to belong, just like all of us do in this room. Because if we continue with our current approach of arguing on the level of belief, it's not going to get us anywhere. We're going to end up with more echo chambers, more disinformation, and more polarization. Instead, we can do the harder work of looking into what is fueling the need for an alternate truth. Not only would this lend us more empathy for those who think differently than us, but I really think this might be the only actually productive means of moving toward the shared reality that we all want to live in. Let's direct our energy toward the crisis of belonging, and then maybe we will understand the crisis of belief. Before I go, I'll leave with one more word. Just don't forget, if it flies, it spies. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I told you it was pretty good. Yeah, so I need to close this right here so I can see the chats over on Facebook. Let me close this. And then let me go here. There, that's good. And we are back. All right.
I remember seeing this guy when he was in character
You did?
on
Wow.
YouTube. Yeah, he was a thing. So I remember what I thought of him was like, he's a lunatic.
Was that the message you remember him saying, or was it another one?
Well, I heard him before he did this TED Talk. He did some YouTube stuff on birds aren't real.
She heard him playing the role of being a bird truther. She thought he was a lunatic, she just said.
Yeah.
Talking at the same time, maybe.
Yeah, just like what he said, that people thought of him and how he felt in character was
Wow.
exactly what I was thinking. Like, how can you even begin to think this way, And
Yeah.
then to find out it was all a test or whatever was really cool when I heard the TED Talk.
Well, yeah, well, why did you think it was cool?
Well, I just thought it was an excellent social experiment. If you were studying the psyche of human beings, I think what a great way to do it that was, and to understand, like, this guy's another generation or two behind us, and they're probably very concerned about all these conspiracy theorists and what to do about them. That's a big concern. It's something I didn't ever have to worry about really growing up, but now they do. And so I just thought it was a really cool thing that he did.
Well, you're raising a question I hadn't considered. Do I remember conspiracy theories from when I was young?
Kennedy.
Yeah, I think Kennedy was the first one. I
Kennedy, yeah.
remember when I first heard it, but it certainly wasn't the 60s. I think it got back around to me sometime when I was in high school that there were all these people out there passing out pamphlets in Dallas saying that, it was the CIA and it was Cuba and it was Russia and there was a gunman on the knoll, grassy knoll, and all of that began to develop. And there was, and then of course the movie came out with Oliver Stone, and everybody decided that that was a documentary. But I don't remember it matching what I read with my own two eyes in the mid to late 60s. I remember seeing the Life magazine issue lying on the kitchen table in 1964. Yeah, maybe December of 63, when I was a kid, and looking at the pictures of the motorcade and the murder. Of course, they didn't show the bloody frame; they took that out. But I've seen the bloody frame now. You can see, anybody can see it online. You can even see people who have enhanced it and who have stabilized it in really creative ways. But that's the first one I remember, and I can't think of another one. Can y'all?
In the same vein, Martin Luther King Jr.,
Correct.
Bobby Kennedy.
So they were all assassinations. I don't think the conspiracies are around so much new assassinations. I know there are conspiracy theories around 9/11. We just passed the anniversary of that, and there's still people believe that the U.S. government was behind all that. That they weren't planes. They were either military planes or they were missiles, and that the collapse of the buildings were detonated. It was detonated from within. It wasn't the melting of those floors and the crashing down of all that weight that collapsed the building, but planned detonation on every floor, just like when you see them drop an old building, so they can clear it away and build something new.
Yeah.
And the flat earth theory was really big maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It was huge, but I think it's faded. The number of flat earthers has dropped dramatically, and the number of hits on their websites have dropped, as well as contributors. And some people have started websites for saying, I used to be a flat earther, so they go from one to the other and try to find a new following and try to explain why they believed what they believed. Flat earth is just as dumb as birds or robots to us. I have one friend who believes we didn't land on the moon, and he's a little bit older than me, which is really shocking considering he was alive and watched much of it happen live. He doesn't believe we went, and I think and of course the virus. Everybody was screaming conspiracy, and every time you mentioned the Wuhan lab, everybody called you xenophobic or racist. Turned out it probably did come from there, but no one believed it at the time, and you were shunned if you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You were shunned if you did believe it, but today it's kind of the other way around. You never, how do you know? How do we know? Unless we do our own research. And how do we handle people who believe the conspiracy theories, and why? And more interestingly, I don't know how many videos I've watched or articles I've read on why do people believe them. So I think a good place for us to start is this very issue: is why do people believe them? Is it like this guy said, because people are hungry for belonging? And have we gone the wrong path, as he indicated, by calling them uneducated and they're the problem with the country, and ignorant and stupid? Or should we maybe suggest starting with belonging before working on believing? Our differences about belief.
Yeah, I was impressed with that.
Gino, what came to your mind? What do you want to talk about?
I've got two dumb questions.
Yeah.
What is a TED Talk? What does that mean, that term? I've never seen one.
Okay, I've seen a lot.
Oh,
I've seen a lot of them. Some of them are terrible and some of them are quite good. And
What's the derivation of the term?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Ted Turner, I think, was the original. They I think had it in maybe in the TED, the CNN or Ted Turner building or.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the term.
And there's all sorts of them. I mean, there's scientific ones, there's social ones, there's political
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah,
They're usually pretty good.
How's that different than a YouTube video?
well, it is a YouTube video.
Okay.
It basically is.
Showing my ignorance. And the other thing is, what was his audience when he, pardon the expression, came out for not being a bat crazy bird conspiracist? What was the audience that night?
I don't know the specific audience and I don't know that specific venue, but they do TED Talks. They tape TED Talks all over the world.
Huh.
And they have people come in and talk about looking for a ninth planet in the outer solar system. They have someone come in and talk about gravity. They have other people come in and talk about why do we dream and what do they mean. They talk about how your vision works. They just have experts from all kinds of different fields coming in and doing short talks to try to express who they are or what they've been through or what they're working on.
Technology, entertainment, and design.
Technology, entertainment, and design. Oh, that's
That's what it stands
Okay,
for.
plausible.
it's a new thing for me. Sorry.
I don't know when they started, but it was over a decade ago.
I was in 5th grade, West
10
End
years
Elementary
ago.
School, and we were talking about how easily people can be manipulated, and I don't know how we got on the subject. Mr. Hackman was our teacher, one of my favorite teachers ever, and he said, okay, we're all going out for recess, and I want everybody to do whatever you're going to do. And at a certain point, about 10 minutes into recess, I'm going to blow a whistle. And I want everybody to stop and look straight up in the sky. And we're going to do that for 30 seconds. And when I blow the whistle the second time, you're going to look at the windows of all the classrooms in the quadrangle around us. Okay, we played. He blew the whistle. We looked and froze. 30 seconds later, he tooted, just toot, and we looked down and all these people had come to the windows, opened the windows, sticking their head outdoors, looking up like, what are those people looking at?
Yeah.
Mass communication is an interesting thing.
Yes, it is.
Which may have nothing to do with anything.
Well,
No, that's a good example.
Mm-hmm.
well, I don't want to. I don't want to dominate, and I don't want to change the subject too quickly. Was Micah, Kathy? Is there other things that you thought of that are relevant?
Oh, well, it's relevant to human behavior in general, judging people and not understanding people, not taking the time to know them. You know, the whole thing. It encompasses a lot what that guy said. I mean, we could certainly take it to politics today. We could take it to religion today. You know, why do you think you're saved? What is that? You know, and we can't judge people if they believe that they are, that that's a thing. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
all they've known.
Mhm.
yeah. That's one of two directions that I kind of went in when I saw it the first time. Was that that this seemed relevant to me in terms of what we do. Let me do the other one first and say that you may remember Patricia having talked about when she was in elementary school and high school that they nicknamed her Blacks and they made fun of her for her skin. And that the irony of that is that everyone in her school, all the students and teachers were Black. She was too Black. And the what she discovered in reflecting on Maslow's hierarchy of human need was that the next to the top one was a sense of belonging. And the top one was self-respect and self-actualization. And these children got a sense of belonging by picking on her. It gave them, it increased their sense that they were liked, that they had a place, that they weren't alone. And so you can do immoral things to people to belong. Or you can do really moral things with people to belong in coordinated acts of ministry or love or service of any kind. We need it so bad that, you know, we'll even break the law and join a gang that kills people in order to belong. We need it that badly. And so when I look at when I watch the videos by the flat earthers, I read the comments, and I am just the impression that I get from conspiracy theorists is that they're finding a deep sense of community in this complete idiocy that they're believing together.
Yes.
Actually, it's not true, and many of them probably know factually it's not true. But the resistance from the outside makes them huddle and build up defenses.
Yeah.
One another, and they get belonging, and the belonging is so powerful that they don't want that they just rally with one another to fight the globetards. That's what they call anyone who believes that the Earth is a globe rather than a plane or a disc. That struck me as important. And then, Kathy, back to what you said, in total agreement, that was one of the things that I thought about. What about us? You know, as we've been studying over the years, we've grown, we've changed, we've discovered things in Scripture that contradict what most of our Christian friends have always known and believed. And so there's even though we aren't conspiracy theorists, there is a similar response sometimes to the things that we might say here about Scripture and what it really says. For example, what about, what if I say we don't know how many wise men there were, and they weren't wise men, they were magi. Well, they're right. Some people would just never talk to me again if I said something like that. Or if I say salvation has 3 tenses, past, present, and future in the Bible. They just, like Patricia, when she asked me a question about my salvation, and that was my answer after we had just first met and were sitting down for the first time at the table with the other chaplains for lunch at the hospital in Northside, and she just looked at me like, I don't know what he's talking about. His theology is so heretical and strange. But maybe that's a good example of how Patricia and I put belonging before belief, because we instantly liked one another. Even we had a difficult time over many years and still do struggle with belief. When you put belief first, and especially in the internet world, it's very easy to just sort of type horrible things about how stupid you are. That's what's going on. And I wonder if maybe the conspiracy theory epidemic in our country would resolve better if we spent more time looking at the person instead of going online and trying to win an argument that's unwinnable. There's no point in arguing with 2 people, a drunk and a flat earther.
Well, I had a situation after Sandy Hook, the elementary school up in Connecticut. I worked for a company, and I just happened to be up there the day or 2 days after that massacre.
Oh, dear God.
And I had a lot of friends. Our corporate headquarters was just a couple, 5 minutes away from the school, and the people, I knew people who had been directly affected. They were going to funerals. They were, it was just bad. And I come back home to Lafayette, and I'm getting my hair cut, and I said something about how horrible it was. And they said, well, that was just a hoax. And I'm like, no, it was real, and people didn't want to believe me. It was like saying, oh, you're looking at the radar and it says it's raining outside, but it's not raining outside your house, You don't believe the person that was just there. You believe this crazy man, Jones, or whoever he was, that had posted all this stuff, that it was just a hoax to do gun control. It was an unbelievable thing.
Yeah. And yeah. This bumps up against the whole fake news thing, but that's more complicated and a little bit off subject, because the news outlets, it's a very complicated picture, and I don't think what we're talking about here is conspiracy theory. I think what we're talking about there is, are we doing journalism, or is journalism becoming a form of activism?
Yeah.
Are they giving opinion, or are they giving us facts? And the sad truth is that they're often leaving out facts or changing facts to suit their ideology, whether left or right.
Yeah.
And so we're in a crisis of not knowing which information to trust, and that had led to a lack of trust in the electoral process on both sides over several elections now, and the polarizing is so intense that we hide our political opinions, because that won't end well for relationships in a lot of cases. I don't have problems getting along with people who might disagree with me politically or theologically anymore, but I think there are a lot of people out there who are of the opinion that if you voted for this person, I don't want to have anything to do with you.
Right.
And broken up families, and sure does make Thanksgiving dinner interesting.
Yeah.
So those were two things I want to say, Kathy. That's exactly what I was thinking. Was along the lines of faith and religion and belief and that kind of thing. What's the implication here? If we disagree about baptism, can we still not belong to the same church, or at least to the same Lord, if not the same church? And what is all of this? He got canceled. He never used the word canceled. What was the word he used? He used the word that means canceled, but he didn't say canceled. Outed or something, not outed, ousted, ostracized. I forget the exact word that he used, but othered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it every
Interesting word.
feels like to be othered, and it sucks. And what would you do to avoid being othered? How much would you conform, or how many mean things or crazy things would you do if it just meant you belonged? And we're living a day now where people can get into their 30s and they can't get a job based on the degree that they got. So they can't pay their bills, and they end up being dependent on their parents or someone else to help them. So, Maslow's hierarchy begins with, do you have food, water, and shelter? And are you safe? Are you being chased by lions? And if you can get some of those basic human needs met, I've got a job. I don't have to worry about where my meal is coming from tonight. Then you can start working on things like belonging and self-actualization and respect. But if you don't have those things, you feel pretty panicked. And maybe you're stuck in your mom's basement, you're 30, your job doesn't make enough for you to make it on your own, and you spend all your time on YouTube, and suddenly you're a flat earther, or you're a moon landing denier, or you're I can't think of any others, but you know what I'm talking about. I think it is more of a modern crisis than it was, say, for us when we were coming along in the 60s, 70s, maybe even 80s.
There's a lot of cognitive dissonance in that.
In what?
You know, if you find yourself othered, as the person said, and you go into that rabbit hole of isolation and darkness, you're going to listen to that stuff enough that you're just going to keep chasing it down the rabbit hole, whether it's right wing or left wing radio or talk people or dead people, and you're gonna hear enough of it that you're going to believe it, even if you don't know what you believe. So
the echo chamber that he was talking about, if I understand it correctly, is what you're talking about. Am I right?
I would agree with that.
So the echo chamber, if I'm describing it correctly, would be that you watch these YouTube videos and are convinced that, I don't know, the sky is really yellow. And there are people there who are saying that, and then they start giving you all of these examples of how the government has created a shield over the earth that filters out necessary ingredients for us to do independent thinking so that we are more pliable and malleable, and that yellow has a different effect on the human psyche than blue, and that blue would be dangerous because it would encourage independent thinking. And then suddenly you belong, and not only that, but y'all are being attacked in the comments, and you huddle together and create more videos and get more evidence, and you start fighting back. And in that process, you become your own little army, you know, your own little troop, or your own little gang, or maybe even your own little cult.
And less likely to listen to any outside influence or opinion.
Yeah.
And notice when he was pretending, Gene, that as an example of that, remember when he was talking about, he was pretending to be a person who believed that birds are robots, how he said that all of y'all are sheep, that all of y'all have been brainwashed, which was sort of the opposite of what was true with, especially with conspiracy theories like flat earthers, that they call us globetards, and they call names as quickly as they can, and that rallies them together. They even have panel discussions where basically all they do is just make fun of people like Simon Dan or some of the science guy. There are all kinds of people who are trying to stop them and kill the flat earth movement, but it actually galvanizes it. I don't know. And what's the implication of that for our Bible teaching too? Because the point here is not to hate modern evangelicals and fundamentalists. The goal here is to study the Bible and point out that now, we know that this is different from what you've already heard, and we wonder, do they think we're crazy? Do they think we're lying? Do they think that we're some sort of cult or group of heretics? So Dunning-Kruger comes into effect here. There are a lot of people who think they know a lot about, for example, hell, who don't know anything about what the Bible actually says about Gehenna or Hades or Tartaru or that's the four words. And if you haven't looked them up, don't talk about hell.
Because you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
But it would be easy just to kind of lump us in with the flat earthers for disagreeing. I mean, what do we do when we point out that Jesus was probably about 41 when he died instead of 33, which everybody knows is true because it says it in the Bible? No, it does not. How much of what you have been taught is word of mouth from people who didn't do their homework? Now, we're doing homework here. We're not always right, but we're working the problem. But I think that the people who quickly have dismissed me have been the people who simply assumed that Bert can't be right because it doesn't agree with what everybody I know thinks.
Mhm.
Real easy to dismiss me.
Yeah.
And that doesn't feel great. And I wonder how it feels to you to suddenly find yourself in a conversation like we have here on Wednesday nights on the panel, where, are we our own echo chamber? Or do people watch us just to be in awe of how heretical we are? I haven't seen any negative comments in our videos per se. Maybe what we're saying is not causing much of a stir. But I've often wondered what it would be like to have someone who's a fundamentalist on the panel and in the discussion. But obviously they're not, I haven't seen them participate, and I wouldn't know how to invite them, the other.
See, that's the thing, is would they feel drawn in and comfortable enough with each of us to feel that it's possible to belong, regardless of what they believed.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. And from time to time, we have had that situation. Patricia, for example, was raised, I would describe as a fundamentalist and a modern evangelical. And her whole family, her sister, you may have noticed a couple of her sisters have joined us. And when they have, I will confess that I'm careful, because my relationship to them is more important to me than whether or not they agree with my theology. So I look for points of agreement. And that's important, because there are points of agreement. We love Jesus. I know they love Jesus.
Right.
But they may never heard what I'm saying before, because sometimes in fundamentalism, it's its own echo chamber too. Patricia has said to me many, many, many times, "It's all I ever heard, Bert. Why?"
Right.
And if you're in a church like that, one of the things that they do is that they do they put a lot of effort into telling people you can't trust what anybody outside of our group says. It's of the devil.
Which is kind of cult-like, and
Close the door to the outside world. It's us against the world.
right.
One of our church ladies, Kathy, I'll tell you later who it is, called today and was talking about a friend that she's trying to help in a personal situation. And she said, why is it that in the Christian faith, in the Christian world, we can agree about 95% of everything and we'll fight to the death about that last 5% and not get along? And
Yeah.
and when she said that, I remembered that 2 parishes ago, I was invited to one of those community clergy meetings. I went because the church, it was very important for them to be part of the community Thanksgiving service. And the convener, whatever, the first thing he said was, okay, just so we get to know each other better, tell me when you were baptized and immersed and when you got saved.
That's picking a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know how shy I am about a fight. and I didn't respond. And he went all the way around. He said, well, we've not heard from some people. And I just sat there. And finally he said, you're kind of new. You feel shy? I said, oh, I'm not shy. I just don't think we're talking about the same thing.
Mm.
Okay, well, can you tell me when you were saved? And you know what I told him? Easter Sunday, 2,000 years ago. And he said, so let's talk about the refreshments for the Thanksgiving thing. I said, how about bread and wine?
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
She was thinking it.
I was.
Right.
So contrary to popular opinion, everything I think doesn't come out my mouth.
Well, if
You said thank God in the background.
man, you know, the filtering we have to do sometimes is important, and then sometimes it just gets old. Because, I mean, it's important for the church to understand itself scripturally as a group of believers whose differences and whose preferences can be transcended by the depth of our love of Christ together and our belief that tolerating one another's differences is important in relationships.
Hmm,
I
sure.
So, when we've had, you may remember that Gloria, God rest her soul, was on with us for a while. And she grew so fast and so much in such a short period of time. I felt something providential in it because I think she was, knowing she was sick, I think she was afraid. And the fear was a religious fear. And she talked about it right here on the screen with us. That she wanted not to feel that anymore and to trust the grace that we talked about.
Yeah, another thing I thought of, Bert, y'all mentioned the Kennedys and the conspiracies there. And, I don't know which ones y'all have in mind, but I know one that I've heard a number of times was that there were things about what uh, the fear was that they would speak about in the assassination of them. And one of those was apparently UFOs and related stuff about that. And there were things written about that I heard later, was just held secret for 50 years before they would open it and reveal it. And one of those was some things about UFOs and all that. And I don't want to make it just about that. I'm just saying now there's been a Senate hearing about UFOs where they actually was studied and looked at it and took it seriously. That would have never happened even 20 years ago, I don't think.
It is a good point though. On the History Channel they have that guy with the weird hair, and every time they can't explain something from history, he says aliens. So
Sure. Sure.
I mean, so let's take that into account too, because he gets paid for that. He's making a living at being this character who looks at anything, Stonehenge, aliens, the Nazca lines, aliens, Machu Picchu, aliens, the pyramids, aliens.
Right. But still, the fact that I think the population at large is viewing it in such a different way, and it's like we're in a different place, maybe with the media and everything, now than it was back then. It wasn't the same kind of threat, apparently, though it still is,
Well,
uh,
the reason why when pilots can't identify something, there's a reason why they don't report it.
yeah.
Problem was with the military ones is that they were picking it up on radar and on camera from the ship and from the planes. So you have the corroboration of the soldiers and officers seeing them, recording them on video, the pilots seeing them, recording them on video, and them able to also see it on the radar. There was something there. But what does UFO stand for? Unidentified flying object. It doesn't mean aliens. It means we don't know what it is. And they've
Right.
actually changed it to something else now. It's
Aerial phenomenon. It's unidentified aerial phenomenon, or
Yeah, it's UAF now. The UAF because
UAP.
UAP because nobody wants to use UFO because it's so stigmatized with crazy.
Yeah, sure.
It's like Bigfoot, or the Loch Ness monster.
Right.
And I taught a student at Wood College many years ago, Gene, who I still stay in touch with on Facebook friends. He was a Bigfoot enthusiast then, and he still is today. I mean, he goes to all the Bigfoot conventions that you wouldn't believe.
I know some folks.
Yeah. So there's two sides to this thing, I guess. There's the side of we've got some people who are finding community, believing some crazy things together. And then we've got, here we are teaching and preaching about the Bible at your church and at mine and on these various podcast type things that we do on YouTube and Facebook and on Zoom that are sort of like we're saying, Coach Lombardi holding up the football to a team that's played badly and saying, here is a football. And I feel like that's probably could be experienced by others as insulting. But at the same time, from a biblical perspective, that's kind of what we're doing because we can see in the scriptures with careful study what it says. And then we know what people believe because we've heard it all our lives, and they don't converge. Like, for example, I said at a church one time during a study that I was doing, I'd just gotten back from teaching in Greece and Turkey, and I did a study in which I mentioned that pagans believed that your shade or soul left your body and went to Hades, where it was not torture, but it was boring. But of course, we don't have to worry about that as Christians because we don't believe in souls leaving bodies. We believe in the resurrection of the body. And one of the ladies in the church said, "What did you just say?" And I had to explain to her that, yeah, every Sunday morning we say, "I believe in the resurrection of the body and the life everlasting." She said, "You don't believe that souls leave bodies?" I said, "I believe in the resurrection of the body." And what do you do with that? Now, of course, what we've done is we've gone in there and studied like crazy what Paul believed, and he put all his eggs in that basket. Resurrection of the body. There's nothing in scripture about souls leaving bodies. But if you tell someone that, the first thing they do is freak out and say, "Well, where's grandma?"
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of we aren't conspiracy theorists, but I can see how I've had people occasionally lump me in that category, I think, and treat me like.
Yeah.
I can't say that it's happened a great deal, but you can smell it when people have decided to write you off.
Yeah. You're othered.
Yeah, I've been othered. Have you?
Yeah.
Have any of you been othered recently for your belief or your changing faith? Even worse, have any of you ever been shunned by your family because you left the cult? He's already said it, so I'm not telling you anything new. He typed it right here last week. John said, "That's what happened to me." You remember John Hendren?
Uh-huh. That's right.
He left Armstrongianism. Is that a word?
It is now.
Yeah. And if you're not over 50, you don't know what that is, but
Would he be an Armstronger?
yeah.
How's that work? I'm not sure.
I guess Armstrongism, I think, is what Greg Albrecht called it. He left, by the way.
But you can say that about any branch of the faith, whether it's Mormonism, Catholicism, Methodism, Baptistism. You know, if you're going to write somebody off because they don't stay in the club and do the handshake, how, you know, to me, they're all the same.
Yeah,
And that's usually more of a familial thing than truly a religious thing. But
yeah. I mean,
Sometimes I wonder if you were to ask evangelical, what are the most important things in your belief? If it would actually meet the test, you know, would they really say that, I don't know, homosexuals are important? I don't think so. What I'm saying is they would put, I'm thinking they would put Jesus and the cross and resurrection and all that would be the most important things, but then they don't act like that, maybe.
I don't know if they would or not. I saw Gene shaking his head because I kind of think that's not what they'd say. I think
What would they say? What would be their top, say the top
are
five?
you saved?
Is that
When
it?
did you get saved?
Are you saved is it? And
Okay, that's it. That's their number one
the
thing.
question behind the question is, are you like me or are you another?
Yes. There it is.
Right?
and more than, and on top of that, along with that, you're supposed to recruit.
Yeah.
So it's not just, are you saved, but are you asking people if they're saved? Because, you know, they're going to hell and we've got to try to help not burn forever because God likes to burn people forever.
Yeah, well,
Air fryer or rotisserie?
hi, Becky. Hi.
Here she comes. You ready?
Here she comes.
Okay, are you ready for something a little bit different?
Yeah.
Why would we expect anything else?
So part of the point of the TED Talk to me, as it relates to us as a church, is how do we convince those people that normally we would think of as nutso, that we are a place where they can belong. We are a place, you know, the church is a place where they can belong. If that's what they're trying to do, is find a group that they're belonging to and that they're accepted and everybody's got a common purpose.
Mhm.
You know, I think that's the question for us, is how do we do that? Not, you know, what do we do with them, but how do we incorporate them into the church and convince them that the church is a good place to be?
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen Lafayette operate a little bit. I've been there once. I met Kathy, I met Ron, I met some of the other people there in the office that were with us that one time. I've seen a lot of you online and I've listened to a lot of the comments over on the side and Gene's studies and one of the things, and I especially have seen your worship services and I've seen you talking about the what do you call it, the food pantry?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think about how, you know, that's taking a stand in the community without judgment. You know, that's building relationships around need and around mutual respect. And I hope that we model, I know we fail, I know I do, but I hope that we are modeling most of the time to the best of our ability as we do these Bible studies, as a place where you won't be shamed for having a different opinion than the leader or anybody else. A place where questions are taken so seriously that we're willing to maybe just sort of put aside on the table for a minute everything I've always heard and see in the scriptures if there's what's really saying there and if these two things jibe with one another. And it is a bit of a balancing act because what we're doing is a corrective in a sense, but we're not correcting people, we're correcting information. But feelings always come together with facts. And people don't really let you challenge them or won't risk letting you challenge what they believe unless they think that you're non-judgmental about them and that you care more about them than about being right.
Guy in the TED Talk, I like the image of, first we talk about belonging and being connected. Then we get to the belief. We took out some Facebook ads and put it in the paper in anticipation of not Advent, Lent and Easter. And don't quote me because it was more than this and probably different language, but it said, if you've ever come to church and been made to feel guilty, if you've ever been told you're a horrible person and you're going to hell, if you've ever been abused verbally in the name of God, we had a list of like 10 negative commandments and said, we're not going to do that. And we'd love to have you come join other people who've been through it and come out the other side and want to hear the good news.
That's fantastic. I'd love to see that
Nice.
around.
love
It's
it.
probably somewhere on my Facebook page. I'll have to find it.
Yeah.
I really like that.
And we ended up talking about it within the church even more than we had people come because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that happen. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I like that about our little church.
Well, what's happening then is a positive thing that I want to underline for both of our churches. I don't want to speak about churches from the past. Just these two churches right here it seems like we're working on getting to know and love one another, that we're growing in our ability to communicate and trust, and we're demonstrating that we care for one another, all in the context of some really challenging studies that bring to light some errors that have been preached in the past. And it's hard to change people's minds if they don't trust that you care about them. And that's why I think Gene and I have both been careful about saying, don't believe what we say, look it up, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. And that doesn't mean save yourself. That means learning to trust the salvation and the mercy that you have been given 2,000 years ago on the cross, learning to trust the people around you who may not see it that way too, and talk about it without anybody having to other anybody else. I don't want to, sometimes you have to stand alone. And you may feel like an other, but I don't think that's what we're talking about here. I think what we're talking about here is finding ways to build community where the trust is strong enough to allow us not only to disagree, but to do so in conversation and learning. And we don't just talk about it like we are tonight. We actually do it. Wednesday morning, Wednesday night, and Sunday morning. We go to the scriptures and look at what they're telling us. And if it contradicts what we've always thought, it's up to people. Are they ready to hear it or not? Jesus knew that there were people who weren't ready to hear. That's why he said, for those who have ears, because some don't. And there was a time in my life when I wasn't ready either. I hated evangelicals. And that song that I sang this morning on that video, if you want to hear me sing a song I wrote when I was in church, I wrote a song when I was 15 in church on some offering envelopes. And that came out of my hate of pastors and the church and the evangelical message and the evangelicals themselves. I just was so frustrated and angry with them. And that was my problem. I had to work out my prejudice. And the way that I did that was I tried to find a way to find out what the scriptures actually say. Because if you don't know what they say, how can you be in conversation with people who think they know what it says? You can't, because you don't have any grounds to stand on.
Hmm.
The authority of scripture comes up here too, doesn't it? Because, if we were talking about people who who have no interest in scripture and have written off us, me and you, just as much as they have Benny Hinn, and don't see the difference, you know, that's a whole different issue.
Yeah.
When it comes to people who are in churches, people who believe in Christ, I like what we do, and I hope we will continue to respect differences while at the same time wrestle with the wisdom of Jesus and the wisdom of Paul and others who wrote the New Testament. We do some Old Testament too sometimes, but primarily we've been focusing on things like salvation and who is Jesus and what is heaven and what the hell is hell. And we have to do the basics because the basics are the things that are messed up. You know, you open those gospel tracts and it says, the good news is you're a sinner. And God is just and has to punish sin. And therefore you deserve to burn in hell. But you got a way out. If you say the Jesus words right and really mean it this time, maybe you can save yourself from God.
If you mean it.
There's no good news in that. None. Zero. And they call it good news at the beginning of the tract. This is what we're faced with. This is what we're fighting. But we don't want to fight people. We want to fight a false gospel that has, by and large, taken over and has for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we fight it with? We fight it with the truth of Scripture as we have been finding it.
It'll set you free.
It will. It sets you free from fear. Perfect love casts out fear, it says in 1 John. Because fear is about punishment, and those who are hung up on punishment have not found perfect love. They don't understand. Well, what do you think, folks? I think we need to wrap up. We started late. Thanks for going a little bit late with me tonight. Anything else from anybody?
When can we expect to get the information about the trip?
I have it. I sent it to Jean. Jean, you can forward anything you want to, but I will also be officially sending it out. I have to tweak a couple of things around the brochure. The question is, I mean, I'm not sure I want to do a snail mail here. By the way, the website may be already up for our trip. Peter was on it yesterday and today. So we may have a link already up. Go to the Society for Biblical Studies website, not the Facebook site, but the actual website, and look for upcoming programs, and it may say Bert and Patricia.
Okay.
I haven't looked yet, but I mailed him the contract. I've signed it. I initialed off on the itinerary, and I guaranteed that it would get there on Friday. So we're on the way. It's real.
Yay.
I just thought through exactly how to distribute it, but Jean has permission to give it to you now.
Yeah, he sent me the forms, but I was wondering when the brochure and that would be coming.
The brochure, the thing that you will get from the Society for Biblical Studies from Peter is going to be that stuff. Okay. What you'll get from me is the brochure I created, and I'm pondering paying a little bit to have an actual website too. But he's putting up our trip on his website as well.
Okay.
Yeah, my little brochure is coming out right away. Please understand this though. Although I am feeling this week that I'm just about well for the first time in the last 3 days.
Wow.
It has been a terrible journey, and we're trying to get through this funeral. So, and by the way, a big report is due tomorrow with the with the conference. So I'm doing it once, but that brochure is close, and you'll be the first person by email. Now, you gave me a different email last time than the one you gave me previously.
Well, the other one is my sister-in-law's email, CJ Chitwood. That's my sister-in-law.
Okay, I did the wrong thing. Okay.
So that's okay. I mean, she's going too. She's gonna go too, so it's
Bert?
fun.
Bert, I went to the Society for Biblical Studies website. I found your trip and I posted it just now on my Facebook page.
Yay.
Go to your Facebook page then. Go to Gene Martino Jr. Facebook page and look up and you can click the link to our trip with the Society for Biblical Studies in March. And we hope that you'll consider going. I want you to say personally, I'm never happier in my experience of my life. I don't think I'm ever happier in terms of ministry and just fulfillment than when I'm over there, because what I do over there is like up here compared to what we can do here. It's a whole different ball game, and it makes it I can do things that I can't do here, and it makes me really happy. And then the other thing is that having friends on this trip, having organized it with Patricia and designed it by talking to her, and we've tailor-made this thing. It's going to be amazing. Nobody stays 3 nights in Jericho. And he said this is a brand new place, and it's not like the other place that we go to in Jericho, which is kind of outside of town. It's in town, so that at night you can go out and you could go to the cafe or the store next door, it's a great place. We're also staying in Tibet, up in Samaria. We're staying on the Sea of Galilee, and we are staying in Bethlehem. And for the Jerusalem extension, we're staying in Jerusalem.
Yay.
And that extension, I hope y'all can do it. I mean, and it's not much more. I think it was $250 more if I read the contract right. For 2 days with me walking in Jerusalem, showing you the things that the tourists don't see. Last time I did that, the people were going nuts. I sent it to you, Kathy.
Oh, I've got it.
Cool.
I got it on I got it on Messenger. Thank you.
You're welcome. I want all of you to go.
I'm going.
Biddy.
Biddy. Gonna go.
I tell you, I would have liked to have done that little excursion, 1-day excursion in the north in the Galilee, 1 extra day in the Galilee. You would not believe how much more it was. I mean, we were getting close to $4,500. No, we're good. We got the trip down to like 38, and without the extension, adding the extension, it's still 38 and some change, I think, but I can't remember. But it's under 4. It's still under 4, I think, isn't it? I think so. I've got to read all this stuff tonight. We're supposed to fill our forms out tonight. Excellent. Awesome. I think there's a $400 registration fee that needs to be in. I don't know if there's a deadline on there or not, but it should be on there. And then there should be a date on there for when you pay in full, which some of you have already done. All right, we've gone way over time. Any other questions about the trip or any more comments about tonight?
No.
Nope. We're good. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I will not be here next week. Next week, I'm going to be flying on Wednesday.
Right.
Thomas for the funeral. So I'll be down there from next Wednesday all the way to the following Tuesday. Martha Wright is preaching for us on Sunday at Owl Rock, and so I'll miss that. But if I'm in a situation in an airport somewhere where I can hook up with y'all on Wednesday morning, I will.
Okay.
Hugs to Patricia.
Hugs to all of you.
Yes.
Yes.
Becky, thank you, Becky. I'm glad you're there. See y'all soon.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.